It happens the moment the room goes quiet. You finally sit down on the couch, or you lie down in bed on a Sunday afternoon intending to do absolutely nothing for just an hour. The weather outside is calm. The obligations of the immediate workday are technically paused. Your body is heavy, desperate for a moment of relief. But as soon as your head hits the pillow or your feet lift off the floor, something shifts inside your chest. It starts as a low, humming vibration, a subtle tightness in your throat, a sudden inexplicable restlessness in your limbs. Your eyes begin to wander around the room, settling on a stack of unopened mail, a dusty shelf, or the cold reflection of your laptop screen. Your mind, which was supposed to be resting, suddenly ignites with an aggressive, unforgiving clarity. It begins to read a list of things you haven't done, things you should be doing, projects you've delayed, emails you haven't answered, and lives you haven't yet built. Within minutes, the comfort of the couch vanishes. The stillness feels heavy, suffocating, almost dangerous. You realize that you cannot sit here. You feel a deep, visceral wave of shame washing over you, a crushing weight that whispers a terrifying accusation. You are wasting time. You are falling behind. You are being lazy. This is the invisible prison of chronic productivity. This is the absolute inability to rest when there is still work to do. And today we are going deep into the psychological architecture of this guilt, because it is not a time management problem. It is not an indicator of a strong work ethic. It is a profound emotional wound that has hijacked your nervous system, turning peace into a threat and rest into an act of self-betrayal. Let us be completely honest about what is happening in those quiet moments. When you struggle to rest, you are not suffering from a lack of discipline. You are suffering from a condition where your self-worth has been completely weaponized against your well-being. For many of us, society praises this constant state of motion. We wear our exhaustion like a badge of honor. We look at our overflowing calendars, our endless to-do lists, and our fragmented sleep schedules as proof that we matter, that we are important, that we are useful. We look at our peers who seem to effortlessly pause, who can spend an afternoon reading a book or sitting in a park without an internal trial occurring in their minds, and we secretly judge them or envy them. But inside your own mind, the standard is impossible. You have created an internal environment where you are only allowed to love yourself when you are producing something. You are only allowed to feel safe when you are checked out, working, or optimizing. The moment you stop, the buffer between your true self and your anxiety disappears. The task list becomes an emotional shield. As long as you are busy, you don't have to feel the underlying emptiness. As long as you are running, you don't have to face the quiet terror of asking yourself, who am I when I am not being useful? Who am I when I have nothing to show for my day? To understand why stillness feels like a crisis, we have to look back at the origins of this behavior. You were not born with a ledger in your mind, calculating your worth based on your output. You did not enter this world believing that a clean kitchen, an empty inbox, or a corporate promotion dictated your right to breathe. This was learned. It was conditioned, often so early and so subtly that it became the foundation of your entire personality. Psychologists know that children are biological detectives. They watch, they listen, and they decode the hidden rules of safety and attachment in their household. If you grew up in an environment where love was transactional, you quickly learned that your existence alone was not enough to guarantee warmth. Perhaps you had a parent whose moods were chaotic, unpredictable, or volatile, and you discovered that the only way to soothe their anger or gain their fleeting attention was to be perfect. You became the child who brought home straight A's. You became the child who cleaned the house before being asked. You became the quiet achiever, the reliable one, the small adult who never made demands and always anticipated the needs of everyone else. In that environment, performance became synonymous with survival. Praise was your oxygen. If you were doing well, you were safe. If you were quiet, you were loved. If you were productive, you were protected from rejection. The tragedy of this childhood conditioning is that your nervous system memorized the equation. It tucked that survival mechanism deep into your body, where it remained completely unchanged as you grew into adulthood. Now, decades later, you're operating on an ancient, outdated script. When you sit down to rest as an adult, your rational mind knows that the world will not end if you leave the laundry unfolded, or if you answer an email tomorrow morning. Your rational mind understands that human bodies require recovery, but your nervous system doesn't speak the language of logic. Your nervous system remembers the child who felt abandoned or criticized when they weren't performing. So, when you force your body to stay still, your biology interprets that stillness as a total collapse of your defenses. To your nervous system, stillness means you are unprotected. Stillness means you are letting your guard down. Stillness means the chaos you spent your entire life running from is finally going to catch you. So it floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline. It makes your heart race. It makes your thoughts spin. It manufactures a sense of urgency out of thin air, convincing you that the dish in the sink is an absolute emergency that requires your immediate attention. You are not cleaning the kitchen because it needs to be clean. You are cleaning the kitchen because your body is trying to escape the chemical discomfort of its own anxiety. This constant state of perpetual motion comes at an enormous, invisible cost. When you allow guilt to dictate your relationship with rest, you slowly transform your entire life into a series of logistics. You stop living and you start optimizing. Every hobby must have a purpose. You cannot just paint. You must sell your art. You cannot just run. You must track your metrics and train for a marathon. You cannot just read. You must finish a book a week to improve your career. Even your relationships become projects that need to be managed. You look at your partner, your children, or your friends, and instead of experiencing the soft, unstructured joy of presence, you are mentally cataloging what needs to be fixed, what needs to be organized, and what goal needs to be achieved next. You become physically present, but emotionally entirely unreachable, trapped inside a glass cage of your own mental labor. You're always living in the next room, always preparing for the next crisis, always waiting for the moment when everything is finally finished, so you can finally relax. But here is the brutal truth that your guilt will never allow you to see. The list will never be finished. There will always be another task. There will always be another laundry basket, another corporate goal, another expectation, another standard. If you wait until everything is done to give yourself permission to rest, you will spend your entire life holding your breath, waiting for a day that does not exist. Consider the reality of what this does to your spirit over a lifetime. It creates a profound, unaddressed loneliness. When you are constantly doing, you are teaching the world around you that you do not have needs. You become the strong one, the reliable anchor, the person who can handle everything without dropping a single ball. People stop asking how you are doing because they assume your competence means you are perfectly fine. They lean on you heavily, pouring their weight onto your shoulders, completely unaware that you are quietly collapsing underneath the load. And secretly, deep within the hidden chambers of your heart, a bitter resentment begins to grow. You start to feel deeply resentful of the very people you are serving. You look at their rest, their ease, and their ability to stop, and you feel an icy wave of anger. You think to yourself, why do I have to do everything? Why does no one notice how tired I am? Why doesn't anyone step in and carry this for me? But you never ask for help. You never state your limits. You never say, I am empty. Because to admit that you are tired is to admit that you are human, And to admit that you are human means risking the possibility that you might no longer be valued. You would rather burn yourself to ashes trying to be superhuman than face the terrifying vulnerability of being seen in your weakness. Healing from this pattern is not an intellectual exercise. You cannot simply read a book on burnout or download a mindfulness application and expect your nervous system to instantly settle into peace. The shift requires an uncomfortable, deeply confronting somatic rebellion. It requires you to sit in a room, consciously place your tasks aside, and intentionally choose to tolerate the intense wave of guilt that follows. When the guilt arises, when the internal prosecutor begins to read the list of your failures and your uncompleted chores, you must learn to witness it without obeying it. You have to look at that anxiety not as a command to get up and work, but as a wounded, terrified part of yourself that is screaming because it doesn't know how to feel safe without a shield. You must speak to that inner child who is still standing by the doorway, holding a perfect report card, waiting for permission to sit down. You have to tell them what no one else ever had the awareness to say. Your worth is not negotiable. Your right to be here is not tied to what you produce. You have done enough. You have been strong enough. You are allowed to simply exist. This is the hard, necessary work of reclaiming your life from the machine of constant optimization. It asks you to entirely reframe your definition of success. True success is not an empty checklist, a flawless reputation, or an optimized career. True success is a regulated nervous system. It is the ability to sit in a quiet room, look at a chaotic world, look at an unfinished house, look at an incomplete life, and still tell your body, we are safe right here. We can rest right now. It is the understanding that rest is not a reward you have to earn after you have exhausted your biology. Rest is a fundamental, non-negotiable right that sustains the very life you are trying to build. When you choose softness over strength, when you choose stillness over motion, you are not failing the world. You are finally choosing to stop failing yourself. The basket of laundry will still be there tomorrow. The emails will wait. The projects will unfold in their own time. But your life is happening right now in the spaces between the tasks, in the unstructured, unquantifiable moments of pure presence. Do not let your guilt trick you into missing the very existence you are working so hard to protect. Lay the heavy burden down. Let your chest expand. Breathe into the emptiness. You do not have to prove your right to exist to anyone anymore. The work is paused, and for the first time in your life, that is exactly as it should be.